Welcome, everyone. We call our April meeting of the HAC to order. We're going to begin this meeting with public comments. We have one public commenter who has signed up in advance. So Patrick, would you do your public comment? Please. And if you have written comments, we'd appreciate a copy.
Okay. Will there be a time? I heard there was 3 minutes.
You have 3 minutes. Would someone start a timer?
Board meeting, will there be a yellow and then a red?
I'll give you like 2-minute warning. How's that?
You got it. I can just show. I can just put it up there.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, thank you for taking the general comments. Some of the concerns that I've had that are not minimal, but it shows the authority that we're dealing with. I had the agreement that the site authority and Kennedy Wilson signed. There's attachment A, and it talks about the responsibilities of the common area management. I know there's some questions about and concerns about how the minutes are taken. The number one job of the common area management is attend and participate in HAC meetings and take minutes. It says nothing about posting videos. There's been some questions about who has to enforce the rules here. Number 7 of the same CAM area management jobs ensures resident compliance with the ground sublease, which includes but is not limited to enforcement of existing community rules and regulations provided. However, if upon owner's request, that's a site authority, the operator, that's Kennedy Wilson, revised the existing community rules and regulations to address new community rules and regulations, any such work, meaning our CAM manager is in charge of the compliance with the ground sublease. There's been some question that I understand. I talked to the police and Kennedy Wilson and UG CAM about whose authority we actually are on. And this is from the CAG meeting of January 2021, so well over a year ago. Lori, I'm assuming Nichols, informed the group that a review of the rules and regulations of legal counsel determined that the site authority land is not university land, but is owned by the Board of Trustees. The president does not have the authority to create policies that impact the university land community since it doesn't fall under the educational code. The Board of Trustees does not have the power to set rules under the site authority lands because the land is not university land and the educational code would not be applicable. The university president may not have the same level of control of university land because it is separate from main campus. It's a complex situation under evaluation with legal counsel. To me, that means state laws and our constitution applies, whether it's first, second, fourth amendment, etc. I also have a concern regarding the different formats we're using for our meetings. In February, you can express your opinions and bring up your topics directly to the agenda. And then the March meeting said only persons wishing to register to make public comments, and that was not even on the agenda. And then this one says only at the beginning of the meeting. I'm curious why we keep on making different ways that the public can share, since this is state land, and the First Amendment applies and freedom of speech. It seems like you are limiting us to just this 3-minute window, and hopefully during the agenda we can ask questions and bring up topics that are concerned to myself or other residents. We should not be held to just, well, you get 3 minutes and you're going to listen to me like a board meeting and you're going to sit there and nod and maybe look. And I've been to many board meetings where most people just sit and they look at you and maybe we go on. So I will be asking plenty of questions during the agenda. I'm more than taken away because it wasn't listed. Thank you.
Solid 3 minutes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for our March meeting. All in favor?
I didn't look at them.
I wasn't there, so I cannot.
Okay, so we do not have a quorum of folks who attended the meeting.
No, actually, I didn't attend to. You're right.
Okay, I will contact the 2 people who did.
Mhm.
I have a question. May I ask questions or not?
I would like, let me just step back from the meeting for a moment and explain that I would like us to get through our public reports before we begin a conversation on a topic. When we get to the appropriate section of our own internal business, which starts with committees, more conversation may ensue. But at this point, we would like to be respectful of the folks who are here to do reports and not make them wait for other conversations to happen. So, public safety report, please.
Well, good evening. As you know, well, as you probably have witnessed, things have been a little busy as of late, and there's been quite a bit going on. I do want to bring, so at the last meeting, a concern was raised, was it the meeting or the email later, right? At the last meeting, a concern was raised in reference to safety at the school bus stop up on Channel Islands Drive. And so we have assigned officers to be up there and doing some additional patrols, as well as have spoken with the McCarthy folks who are responsible for that operation. And so we haven't seen any continuing safety concerns in that area. If there are, please should call us if you see something like that happening. In addition to that, over the last month, there have been a number of incidents up in the community, but the one that we want to bring to everyone's attention is a catalytic converter theft, which occurred in the middle of the day, around lunchtime on Smuggler's Cove. And so we did put out some messaging on that. There were also some catalytic converters stolen on the main campus as well during that same time period. Unfortunately, this is something we are seeing on the rise both in county and across the entire state. On that same day, crews of thieves hit in several other cities in the county on the same day. And so we do have surveillance footage of the vehicle. Officers were on scene within a minute of this being observed by the owner of the vehicle. Happened to be home and heard some commotion outside, went outside and observed this thief under the car stealing his catalytic converter, and they jumped in the car and left. Fortunately, we were unable to get a license plate that matched anything in our systems, and the vehicle was able to slip through. As you know, there's multiple ways of exit from the community, but was able to slip through without detection. And so we're still under investigation. We've got lots of surveillance footage of the incident, but we're asking everyone to be cognizant that these crimes are increasing in county. It's likely that we will see repeat offenses like this in the future. And so if you see anything that's suspicious in nature, even in the middle of the day, I would have said it's unlikely to be hit in the middle of the day, but we were hit right in the middle of the day. I would just encourage you all to please report anything that you see that's suspicious so that we can get our officers up there as quickly as possible. Other than that, I have a few general announcements. This Sunday, is CSU Channel Islands the Autism Society's Off to Run event, which is a 5K, 10K race happening on the main campus, and will involve several road closures. So please be prepared for some expected traffic delays that morning. If you're planning to exit, the absolute easiest way to exit the community during the race is to come down off of Chapel Drive and exit the back way, which won't be impacted off of Ventura Road, but you will be able to get out. If you go down Channel Islands Drive during the first race, you'll be able to turn left and come back around University Drive as Camarillo Street exiting will be closed. And then during the second phase of that race, Channel Islands Drive closes, or Camarillo Street closes at Channel Islands Drive for inbound and outbound traffic. So you'll still be able to get in and out Lewis Road, but you won't be able to get onto the main campus during that period of time. If you're trying to come back home, the absolute easiest way to get in is either Ventura Road or on University Drive. I would not recommend coming in off of Camarillo Street during the race itself, but it all starts about 7:30 in the morning, and you should be concluded with the biggest race. The 10K should be done by about 8:30, and then the 5K starts immediately afterwards, and we're anticipating that to be finishing up around 10 or 11.
And UCAM sent everybody an e-blast with the attached map. I suggest everybody print out so that we know where we can get to and from on Saturday.
Yeah, we will have traffic control officers in place. So if you end up in the wrong place, don't worry. We'll be able to get you to where you go. We just ask for a little grace. There's a lot of runners out there on the roadway, and for safety reasons, we've got some things shut down. In addition to that, we're quickly entering the final stages of our academic semester on campus. And so just a general reminder that we've got the university's commencement ceremonies happening this year, the week of May 21st and 22nd. There will be 4 ceremonies that weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And you should not see, I mean, while there will be increased traffic flow, there are no expected road closures. So you shouldn't see have any issues coming to and from the community. In addition to that, June the 5th, I believe, which is a Sunday, Casa Pacifica will be holding its annual food, wine, and brew festival on the main campus. And so lots of events happening. We'll try to keep you all updated as much as possible. With that, I'll take any questions.
Got a couple. The catalytic converter thefts, how long does it take for someone to crawl under? Is this a 1-minute exercise or?
Yeah, so they literally bring a circular saw of some type with them, and they literally make 2 saw cut incisions, and
Okay.
it's done. And so with that, we'll be putting out some information soon about how better things to do to protect your catalytic converter. Within the county, there are a couple mechanic shops which you can go to and get your catalytic converter etched and painted, right? So the hope is that they won't want to take etched and painted one, because when they get it to wherever it is they're trying to sell it, it will be identified as stolen property.
So there's a little bit of noise involved with this. It's not a crimping kind of thing. It's a power tool.
It's not quiet, no.
And secondly, related to the security cameras, you've mentioned something and it sounded a little confusing. So did you captured an image of the vehicle, but not the license plate?
Correct. Yeah, the vehicle was a black in color sedan, possibly a Honda Accord.
Okay.
And the license plates, we put the information out. I believe that got sent out as well from the cam manager, that with what the plate was believed to have been from the eyewitness, but the footages, the images from the cameras that we have don't show them.
So this goes beyond this particular incident or type of incident, but as you come in on Camarillo Street, there's a sign that says surveillance cameras may be in. So we've got them around the campus somewhere.
There are surveillance cameras all around.
Are they at street level generally?
They are generally off of buildings.
Okay. Thank you. I think there's a question back.
Oh, I understand they mainly target SUVs because they're recent. Is that correct? Is your addiction?
No, not. I mean, we see a lot more Hondas get hit than any other vehicle type, but it's really. I wouldn't be able to speak to one specific type of car.
Thank you.
I had a question. A couple of PAC meetings ago, someone mentioned that the landscapers were smoking, and then you hear in the background one of the members said, "You know, it's smoke." What's your understanding of the policy regarding smoking university and the policy of law smoking in the U? What information do you have?
Well, so the university smoking policy comes from a CSU executive order, which states that all 23 campuses of the California State University are smoke and tobacco free. And that would apply to the grounds of the main campus, right? And surrounding grounds, like CI Regional Park would be included, any type of shared space. Now, as of right now, our understanding is that does not apply to the University Glen community. And so that would not be enforceable.
That is not our understanding historically. Our understanding historically is that is an enforceable rule in our community.
That's my understanding. My understanding is that we.
No, as
With this 3 or 4 years ago in the HAC, and the answer was it was enforceable.
it is not.
Okay, let me make a comment. Was when this executive order came out, that I know that the site authority personnel had a meeting with the community, and then there was a subsequent letter that came out that said that There's no smoking in the common areas of University Lounge. However, and it's like that individuals can smoke in their house and in their exclusive use areas. But
So the university smoking policy is not a legally enforceable policy anyways. We would be involved from a university police perspective in a smoking violation, right? It would be an administrative violation of a university policy. And so
So on campus, if you see a student smoking, you don't enforce that,
we do not.
we do enforce skateboards.
Skateboarding is outlined under the California vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
noted.
You have a copy of that letter for us to see from you? Because what I've only seen is the CAG recommended something, then I dug it through some minutes from the SA and they seconded it, but I've never seen anything official regarding our amendments to change our ground cover.
Well, either way, the landscaper should not be out here smoking. That's the bottom line. That is very bad.
Thank you.
Understood.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, I'm sorry,
I've
it's
never
not
seen
enforceable in the
a
public
community
areas.
smoking and the community never-
Not from a law enforcement standpoint, it is not.
I've only seen it in their own home.
Okay, anything else for the police?
Thank you.
Right view.
I agree with that. We can talk about
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me today. Just going right off the back of the comment of the smoking on campus. We did talk to the individual afterwards and we spoke to him about what he can't do. And that individual has been written up and we already told them, you can't do this. So we did speak to him, just so you know, and it was addressed. So I'm here to go over the landscape report, what we've done so far as of today. The first thing that I want to bring up is the DG pass, that's the decomposed grand pass. We are focusing on pushing, on weed whacking those areas, keeping those areas maintained. We have focused on the Smuggler's Cove DG path, and we are started over here on the Channel Islands, north side of Channel Islands DG paths, working down our way towards Camarillo Street. So we really want to make sure that we maintain those weeds low and keep it clean, as well as trimming the low-hanging branches, because we don't want to have pedestrians bumping into any low-hanging branches when they're walking on DG paths. The second item that I have on my list is the community garden. We have successfully brought soil to the community garden. We really wanted to help out the community, so we brought in, I believe it was a premium soil, premium soil, vegetable mix, and there was also a load of mulch that was brought there, plus mulch. So we wanted to do that to really help the community, and it could help grow their vegetation in the community garden. And I'm sure you guys know where the community garden is. The third thing I wanted to bring up is that we are continuing to push on trimming the hedges and the shrubs, looking out for any overgrowth. We're also looking out for any outstanding leaf material, really pushing on that, and really getting on that so that we can pick up leaves. That's an ongoing battle for us, as you know. The last thing that I wanted to bring up is the irrigation. So we've managed to check up to 5 clocks up until now for the last time we checked, it was 5 months, 5 clocks. And we're getting a proposal together to get those repairs in, and I'm going to be sending that to Jake by tomorrow, so you can have that. And we're continuing to check for irrigation breaks as we go. So that's something that we are continuing to do. Other than that, nothing much has really changed from the last time we met. I have time for questions if anybody has questions.
One thing I do want to mention, they have started the 100-foot brush clearance, which has to be in place and complete by June 1 per state law. And so they have started on that. So you'll be seeing that continuing. Some of it is being done on Saturdays because they use other crews during the week, and they do it as they have people to do it. So that is moving forward as well. So you will be seeing that as well.
And the main reason we try to get it done more on a Saturday so it doesn't interfere with the maintenance work that is being done during the week. Because last thing we want is to have us fall behind on maintenance by doing the brush clearance, which is why we're doing it on Saturdays. Yeah.
You have a process or procedure in place for your employees who are doing the regular maintenance if they see some plants that were distressed because maybe the irrigation is not working? Is there a process that they report that to someone and then someone else comes and checks?
Yes. So,
What is that process?
so depending on the schedule, so say for example, today is Thursday. So they were at the Parkview Apartments. If they were to see some distressed plants, then they do report it to my PM, my production manager, which then reports it to me. And if it's looking really distressed, then we have a look at the irrigation to make sure the irrigation is working. That's number one. And if it's not the irrigation, we try to check at some other things that could happen. For example, pests, that could be another thing that could be affecting the plant. So we really want to assess the area before we make a conclusion.
How often do you get reports like that? Or like in a month, an hour?
I lose count. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you right about the back. And that's not just for this property, but like for all the other properties.
Talking about for our area.
Well, to be honest, very few.
Very few.
Mhm.
Because that's what I thought. Because my plants have been distressed. I know what they look like, and we put in a work order. And that was 3 weeks ago, and they're still distressed. We had a little bit of rain. Remember when we had rain? So the plants started looking better, but I believe I don't have any irrigation along the front wall, but no one is checking on that. So maybe.
Carolyn, I believe he checked it today.
Checked it today.
He did, so he can
It's been
report
over
on
a
that.
month.
He can
This is at 382 on the Kappa, correct? Yes, the irrigation was checked. It's a drip system that runs on the side to the front. And there is runtime. It is working on the day it's supposed to work on. That's a planter. So the planters run on Thursdays on a weekly basis. So that the water is working. So it's just.
So you're saying it's fine because the new plants look distressed. They look different than the ones across the street.
Well,
Getting water. The Lantana's distressed.
we took a look at the plant material, and just based on what we saw, the plant material looks to be pretty fine. The lantana does look a little bit more of along like the browning a little bit, but it looks a little aged. But we did see that it is flowering, which is a sign that it is getting water. So we're going to just continue to keep an eye on it, make sure we monitor it very closely.
So basically, if there's no one reporting, then no one's really checking something report. So
What do you mean?
in other areas, we get lots of reports for other groups, but not for our area.
No, that was just overall all the properties that I have to maintain is we have a numerous amount of work orders and stuff. So that's what I thought you had asked. But you were referring to.
Not for our particular area. How many reports a month about irrigation do you get from your people who maintain the property?
Well, I wouldn't really be able to tell you at the top of my head.
Okay.
Two questions. and this came up last year and it came up recently as we were looking at the RFPs for the landscaping contract, but the brush clearance project goes out 100 feet. And I think we've agreed in some areas, the 100 feet extends beyond the edge of Glen property. And so the point is, some of that cost should be borne back to the university, at least from our perspective. So I think last year we raised the issue. I'm not sure it was ever parsed out, but if there's some kind of agreement, whatever time is spent clearing, doing brush clearance beyond the edge of Glen property is not our problem. It's, at least that's our perspective. The financial problem is the university. So
do we have a way to determine geographically when time is spent on university property? Because I'm not sure that the boundary is very clear to your staff.
Well, in the beginning, when we first did the brush clearance, it was a little bit unclear of the boundaries for the brush clearance. But over the years, we've managed to really see what it is that we need to cover. We were able to put stakes on areas where the guys need to get up to. So when they get to the job site, that kind of marks where
You're
they
getting to 100 feet from buildings. And the point that Tom is making is that a portion, in some areas of Glen, a portion of that 100 feet is not actually University Glen property. It is instead university or site authority property, depending upon how that gets parsed out. But it is not University Glen property. And so I don't know that we have a clear agreement on a boundary line that we can tell you, we still need to do 100 feet. The county requires us to do 100 feet. And so we can't change that. What we're trying to change is who is paying the bill for your services for that 100 feet when it's not University Glen property. I think that's, so I guess I think that the homework is really back on our side of the table to get from the site authority a clear definition of the University Glen property boundaries. We think we have that on maps, but I'm not sure we have agreement that the historical maps that we're looking at reflect current reality.
I think this is something that I know when I put together the RFP for the landscape maintenance proposal this year, was that I sketched on a plan where 100 feet is. And that is basically because that is what we're responsible to see that it gets done and meets the requirements per the state. I think the question that is being asked is that at one point, and I think both Tom and Sandy there, when Larry Williams with Ventura County walked the property, he made the comment, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, where he said that if there are owners are responsible up to their property line, and anything that is beyond the property line is the responsibility of the person who owns that property. And so that brought up the question that if owners are, their properties are their land lease areas, which if you look at the parcel maps, which is what I believe Sandy's referring to, those parcel maps go right kind of to the edge of the homes and do not extend particularly far beyond or even up to the DG paths, particularly along Smuggler's Cove. And of course, everybody knows along Smuggler's Cove, 100 feet is all the way across Wandering Canyon Creek. And so that conversation my recollection is, came up because the Ventura County Fire Prevention person, Larry Williams, who we're working with, brought that up. And so from our standpoint, yes, we're not disagreeing that it needs to be done to 100 feet. The question is, are the owners who pay up to their parcel land, are they responsible for the 100 feet beyond their parcel line? That's the question. And I'm not, at this point, I'm kind of stating the question. It would seem maybe this is something that would make sense to bring up to the CAG, because it affects both the apartments as well as the townhouse and single family owners, and to request, put it on the table there where the site authority can put it to their staff, or I can help them with it, whatever, that we can get a clarification for it, because we can figure out what the square footage is, and then we know what the amount of approximately how much of the square footage is 100 feet, and then take it from there. So I don't have any answers, but I know how the question came up.
So you're suggesting we just allocate based on square footage? That's an easy way to do it?
Well, what I'm offering is that if we can determine how much of the square footage is beyond the
Right.
parcel.
As opposed to time spent doing the work.
Right, yeah, kind of putting it that way, because I don't know how you would do it.
Well, you could do it by time, but I think square footage is just a reasonable, easy way to do it.
I would agree that square footage is a reasonably easy way to do it.
Should we take this offline?
Yeah.
Or like do it,
Yeah, I think there's, in my experience, the homeowner, it doesn't matter, that the person that owns the land pays for the brush clearance, not the person whose structure it is. Otherwise, that'd be crazy. And that's why what you're saying sounds a little crazy, because you're measuring to the structure being protected. But that's not the way. You measure from the structure, and then whoever owns the area that has to be cleared, they pay for it. Whoever owns that hill.
It's even easier than that.
No, we're not gonna talk.
Yeah, so we, it
Gone on a
really,
tangent here that's
Yeah,
not
it-
applicable to everybody.
yeah, it really doesn't.
So it needs to get sorted out.
But I suggest we take this back into the bag and have conversations about the formula we're going to use to do it. We know we have to clear 100 feet. Insurance for everybody is dependent upon that 100-foot clearance.
So I had it, we'll move on. So I had a second question. You mentioned 5 clocks being repaired or something. I didn't understand what you were saying.
So there's 5 clocks that we have done the checklist for, so they have the list of repairs that need to be done.
Yeah.
That's what this time around we have done so far for the ones that we are, maybe it was, when was it like, it was like more towards the big end of the March, I think it was.
So what happens is that they're going through,
Right.
based on the amount of money that's in the time, right?
Okay.
So the time that they've allocated now, they've done 5 clocks. They're coming back to me with a proposal for the repairs.
Okay.
And so I will look at those repairs and
Okay.
then approve
Got it.
that. And we'll
Got it. Thank you.
complete it.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The next item on our agenda, and I think our guest has just arrived, Robert O'Reilly from Supervisor Ramirez's office, District 5. Our link to county government. Welcome. Sorry,
Very much for having us in.
sorry that I was not out to greet you.
No, that's okay.
Parking pass and
I found my way in and I'm very resourceful. I did not know I was going to be addressing. Thank you very much. For having
Well,
me in, Robert.
we apologize for it looking so formal, but this is the way when we do the broadcast of this that everybody can hear.
I'm also used to formal, so no problem. My name is Robert O'Reilly. I'm the Chief of Staff to Supervisor Carmen Ramirez. And I just really wanted to come out here. Sandy had an email probably a few weeks ago after the redistricting had occurred. And then we were lucky enough to pick up this area. Carmen being a fan and I think Carmen still has a parking spot here. I see it. So she really likes the campus out here, likes the school. So she was really happy to envelop this within the county or within the district rather. So I wanted to come out here and just say, we are here, we're peers, we are hearing you. We want to know what your issues are. I can't say in the county, it's just something that's really stood out to me lately is 2 check presentations that have occurred from our Congresswoman Julia Brownlee has come. She has presented one in the amount of $950,000 to the County of Ventura. It was basically to Sheriff Ayub and to District Attorney Azarenko for their DNA crime lab testing for unsolved crimes. So that was a real big win. Just today, a check, Julia Brownlee was back at it today at CSUCI, presenting a check in the amount of $250,000 for a new Indigenous Studies program that will begin at CSUCI soon. The next one is Monday. So and this one will be in the amount of at least $12 million for dredging to occur in harbor, much needed dredging. So, right, that's something. Yeah, thank you for saying that. The amount that was in the plan that Julia had gone after was 6.2 or 6.3 million, and she got 12 for the County of Ventura. So some big successes are going on, and we want more.
Well, we would love to be able to participate in some of those. We certainly will enjoy the harbor when it's completed.
Yes.
We have one issue that's come up. We have a suggestion that we're still working internally and we don't have support yet, but I'd like to just put it on your list for now, because we will eventually have to get to you. We've had a suggestion from a community member that we improve the egress from the neighborhood by taking Camarillo Street, which is CSUCI property, and widening it. It actually is already there. It just needs additional pavement, widening so there's a right-hand turn lane at Lewis, so that cars can turn right without waiting for a green light. We're going to do our due diligence inside to get the site authority and the campus supporting. This is a way to improve traffic flow. It is, I think, a safety issue because we are about to double our population over the next 2 to 3 years. And we have to be able to have some level of egress from that side of the neighborhood where all those new people are going. That's a little bit more efficient than we have right now. So I think, so we're hopefully somewhat out in front of the issue, but something that we would love to have District 5 support for as we go to the county and figure out how we navigate the approvals that we need from the county in order to do something like this.
I want to be that help for you. Yes, let me be that.
We thank you so much for taking your time to come tonight, joining us. The folks sitting here are the members of the Homeowners Advisory Council, sans one who is not with us tonight. And we are the advisory group to the site authority for the neighborhood.
Excellent.
No
Excellent.
decision-making power, but we do have loud voices occasionally.
That's what it takes. I have learned working in government and politics. I have learned if you aren't loud, you're not effective.
Absolutely. Do we have any other comments or?
The
Yeah.
money that was given, thank you, sorry, the money that was given for the DNA, is that for sexual assault?
It was.
Or is that for?
So when, honestly, I can say that I don't know the answer to that. When it was talked about, it was talked about as sexual crimes. Yeah, so I do believe you are correct. I do believe that's what it is. The check, and this might just be, presentation purposes, just said, crimes, unsolved crimes on it. So I'm assuming that yes, it is still for the sex crimes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thanks for paying attention.
I have maybe just a heads up, and this is an old issue that's swirled around. It's active with John, and that, and I believe some of this maybe you should have a role in it at some point. But we've had ongoing discussions about what happens with our property tax with the county, and we appreciate there's some things that have gone on. There's some agreements, but we may need some real clear definition that may involve your office. We'll let John work that out with us as well with the bag. But where do our property tax dollars go? We're on state land. What services are we paying for? What are we not paying for? The county passes some of our tax dollars on to the site authority. We're trying to understand, like, are we paying twice for things? Are we?
I will
We
be
don't-
happy to provide some more data
Yeah.
for you. If you're not,
Yeah, we don't need to elaborate on this. It's just kind of a heads up because this has been going on too long. We need to wrestle this to the ground and get clarity on it. So,
I'd like to offer what my idea is that maybe our office, someone from our office comes back and we have it on the agenda for this meeting and we have a presentation that we just.
let us have a conversation.
Okay, perfect.
We are, Steve helped us last year address many of these issues. I have answers that I'm comfortable with, but they're not at a level that Tom is comfortable with. So I think there's more asking to do so that a broader part of the neighborhood is comfortable with the answer.
Anything else?
Thank you so
Thank you for
very
coming.
much.
You're welcome.
It's
I have a dog at home and she's missing me right now.
My spouse was outside with your
Oh,
parking pass.
That's
so-
okay, I went around the other way. Looking like a lost person, looking in all the windows.
Ah,
much.
thank you so much for joining us.
Contact me anytime.
Thank you, I will. Jake, you're up.
Okay. Okay, I have several things. I'm pleased to report the playground replacement project had their grand opening on Tuesday, the 19th at 11 o'clock. It seemed like everything went very well, and I was kind of pleased we did it during the day because that way we got the kind of 2 to 5 kids get access to it with their parents. And then it was reported later on in the afternoon after the students came back on the school buses that the older kids up to 12, 13 also were there. So it seems like everybody is very pleased with that, and we're pleased that it has finally come to fruition.
Oh, yeah. It's been there.
And there is some work that we still need to do with the landscaping following up to where the dirt was left, and I'm working with Brightview to address that, as well as the plants outside the wrought iron fence where they had their construction entrance, as well as the grass area between the sidewalk and the curb there, that parkway area. So we're still working on that, but everything is open. And I'm also working on getting I have an RFP out for painting the wrought iron now that the playground is in place.
Around the playground.
Around the playground.
Can I make a suggestion?
Not sure.
We fix the latch. the
Yeah,
handle.
we're gonna replace that
as
the
well.
whole key. Yeah, the whole locking mechanism. Yeah, it's understood.
Not functional.
Got it. So that's number one. Number two, regarding the landscape RFP, we're continuing to work with the site authority on determining the path forward. And in the next days or so, I will be getting with you, Carolyn, as the co-chair of the landscape committee to kind of bring you up to speed as far as what UGCAN's recommendation we're thinking it's going to be to the site authority, and so that you can be brought into that, and we can do general information, and you can come into the office and see the numbers. There's nothing, you can understand why we're making the recommendation we are. So we'll be in contact with the HAC's landscape chair and committee to have input in that in the next week or so. Okay.
I just hope that you give me a longer period of time. I think you gave me like a couple hours from the last time.
Let's talk afterwards when you can come by and I can show you this stuff. So you can see, you can write down the numbers you need. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, we'll work together on that. Next item, the budget for 22-23. The CAM office has gone back through and we brought up all of the final recommendation to the site authority. And we've also completed and gotten the final level 3 reserve studies. And so everything is moving ahead. We would anticipate that this information will be, and the budget will be voted on the May 9th site authority board meeting. And then there'll be additional information after that given to the community as far as how the budget was put together and what the outcome of that is. So that we want to make sure that this is something that the BAG has been aware of and has had input into it, and now it's going through the protocols to get it in place, and then we'll inform the community about the specifics.
Ask one question.
Sure.
Are you going to hold the level 3 studies until the budget is approved also?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
What's the question?
The
Well, my
level
question-
3s asked whether the reserve studies, the level 3s are like the updated based on.
What's the question?
The question is, are those going to be available at the same time after May 9th as well? And I said, yes, that's the intention. Well, they'll be available for you to look at the CAM office, a hard copy of it. Yeah, and we will be posting the budget and the reserve studies online, just like we've done in the past.
So can you define more what the level 3 is? Because I know there's been quite a few reserve studies.
Yeah, when about, what was it, 4 years ago, we recommended that we have a level 1, which basically goes back through and evaluates all of the physical pieces of the puzzle that are considered common area. That is, for instance, the wrought iron that around the pools, around the playground, includes fencing like the dog parts. It includes painting of the townhomes, painting of the walls, the retaining walls in front of the single family homes, those kind of things.
So did you have a component list change since those?
No, there are a few things that were added.
Okay.
You know, it's like 3 years ago, we didn't have the 13 bollards that are along Channel Islands Drive, you know, the solar bollards.
Okay.
So those have been added in. And so but basically it doesn't change very much.
Nothing has changed since.
Not outside of the bollards, I can't think of anything that has been added.
Added or removed.
At this time, I can't think of anything that has been removed, but that doesn't mean there isn't. You know, I don't
Okay,
recollect.
for me, what is removed?
Right now, I don't think there
No,
is.
later on, anytime.
So that's that, and so we'll have more information after the May 9th site authority board meeting.
Carolyn, to answer your question more directly, so generally you update your reserve studies every year. And there are two types. There's a level 1 and a level 3. Level 1 means the consultants come out on site, they walk the property, physically look at stuff. That's a level 1. Level 3 is they kind of do it from their office, get on the phone with Jake and
To make sure they're right, that they're.
It updates
it's,
it.
yeah,
It
and they,
updates it.
and so it's done remotely. So that's the difference. So we just did a level 3, so they did not come on site and work with Jake and
Right.
Did their-
And
did their
what that
deal.
also
I
does.
just think it's good for the community that we define what we're talking about up here, and even these acronyms, the bags, the kegs, the hags, whatever, you know, it's always good to define what we're talking about.
I think the other thing that is true also that with the reserve studies is the reserve studies, when the amounts that show up on the budget need to jive. And so it's like, that's kind of the final piece of now that the budget is finalized, is to go back and make sure that the level 3 reserve studies match what the funding that we're going to include in the budget.
And the funding has changed, right, since because the
Well,
thresholds have
we
changed.
have to talk about, that's a bigger story. Yeah,
Okay.
let's keep going. So,
There's a question here.
This is sort of all, you might not, like, Carol, I'm fairly new to all these things, so. We work on the budget, it gets sent to the site authority, they sign off on it, and then we see. We do not see where our money is being spent before that.
that is the
That
function
is
of the
correct.
BAG members. Because the budget advisory group, which includes two people from, in this case, it was Sandy Boyd and Kevin Olson from the HAC, along with representation from the apartments. And then John and myself are on that. And that, we go through the entire budgeting process.
But
and
can I
that-
hold this question? I plan to start an introduction to how the budgeting is done as a part of the budget report
Oh,
later in this meeting. So if we could hold this question, let me begin what I hope is an ongoing conversation, kind of a piece at a time, for what the process is.
Okay.
Because I think everyone should understand it.
Thank you, Sandy. Next item, the elections for the HAC are coming up. And what we're looking at is, this is kind of the time frame, and we put this time frame out in e-blast as well. So those that are interested in running for the HAC need to have by 5 o'clock on May 20th, Friday, May 20th, have written to me at UGCAN and informed that, yes, you want to be put on the ballot. And at the same time, we would appreciate by that time, you also supply kind of a bio. Doesn't have to be long, you know, it's about that enough that third of a page kind of thing of why you're interested in running and what you can offer to the community, and information that would be pertinent that you'd like your community members to know. So that is by May 20th. Then we're looking at the week of May 23rd, having a online forum where it'll probably be a webinar where the candidates are online, and we will develop, we can work on this and maybe talk about the questions at the next HAC meeting, is questions that we would like these candidates to answer and respond to. And so we would give them the questions. And so by the 23rd, the week of the 23rd, and that's the weekend before Memorial Day, that we would have a webinar where everybody could listen in, and the various candidates could be vetted, so to speak. Okay. And so then what we would do is that then the intention is after Memorial Day on the 30th, we would send out hard copies of all the ballots to all the members, the 272 single family and townhouse owners, and they need to be back at the UGCAM office by 5 o'clock on Wednesday, June 15th at 5 o'clock. And then the members of the HAC who are continuing, which are Sandy and Carolyn, will figure out a time when they can count them. And we'll probably do it on Zoom, so it's recorded, so that that anybody who has a question can verify that, yes, that's what the results were. And then that's the intention, is that we will announce the new members, put it this way, we will announce who the members that will be added to the 2022-2023 fiscal year. And then that will be on the 16th of June. And then on the 1st of July, those people will be members of the HAC. And the first official meeting will be the July HAC meeting. Okay. Next item, just wanted to give everybody a heads up that as part of our contract, KWP's contract with the site authority, we are to do property assessments. And so Ivy and I are working together to go and do assessments of all the townhomes as well as the single families.
Define assess.
Assessment, basically what we're doing is a checklist to go back and say, does everything look okay? You know, and does something need painting? Are there screens that need taken care of?
All external.
All external, yeah, it's only things that we as the CAM manager would be responsible for. So in the case of the townhomes, it's the windows, it's the garage door, it's, you know, those kind of things. There's also the landscaping, And then with the single families, it is everything from the retaining wall towards the street. And part of this is, which is important, is we'll take pictures, particularly at the front and the back. And some of this is to document if for any reason, God forbid, we would have an issue in the community, that we would have documented at a certain time what the properties look like. So that we have documentation as far as the quality of the construction. You know, it's a little bit like what the windowsills look like, you know, that kind of thing. So that we'll be working on that, and we have to get that done by June 30th. So we're going to be booked here. So if you see us running around outside, that's what we're doing. Okay. Next item, that was property assessments. Next, we're continuing to work out at this time.
One question, is that done yearly?
Yes, we're working at doing that annually. Yes.
When was the last time you did it?
We have not, we have done the single families, and this is the first time that we've done the townhomes. Has to do with the number of hours in the day.
When did you do the single family?
When Lori Lang was still here.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the property assessments. The next thing, we're continuing to work on the defensible space requirements for the landscaping, and working to figure out what we're going to do with phase 2 and 3 with the landscape refurbishing project. And we continue to talk with the landscape committee, and we're also talking with the apartment representatives of what is necessary and what will be allowed and what won't be allowed. And we'll continue our conversations with the site authority, and who is assisting us in talking with the fire prevention people from Ventura County, because Ventura County Fire Protection has been designated by CAL FIRE as we are in their jurisdiction. So whatever Ventura County, my understanding at the present time, whatever Ventura County says needs to happen, that is what we need to do. If it is more stringent than CAL FIRE, we still need to do it. And so there's a conversation of, we are on state land, you know, does the site authority and the university, can they help us because they're in the same boat we are? And so at the same time, we do not want to spend money on the phase 2 and 3 development if we have to come back and redo it. We want to make sure that we're doing it right once. And this is goes into effect January 1 for existing facilities, goes into effect January 1, 2024. So we have time, but not a lot. Okay. The next thing is, wanted to make you aware and remind people that for the ground sublease, non-owner, non-family occupant form is online, and owners are required to submit it to the site authority, which we, UGCAM office, submit it to the UGCAM office. This has to do with people who are renting rooms to students and that kind of thing, or have other tenants. They are the main occupant and are there 51% of the time, but they may have someone else that is helping them pay the rent. And so that we need to have that information so that we can be appraised of all the people that are in the community. And the last thing is that in our executive session after this, we're going to talk with among the HAC members in our consultation with the site authority. There is an application for special events and activities. And recently there was an occasion where we had a bounce house in the community, which was not insured. And this was distressing because that was a big concern, because if it would have been in the community park, it would have had insurance. There is insurance for daily, for special events.
So
And
is that common area?
it was in the common area, correct. And so that came to our attention, and in consultation with the site authority, we are requesting going forward, coming out of COVID, that all activities that would be in the common areas, whether that's you know, having a potluck, or you know, having a birthday party or whatever, that it comes through the CAM office so that it can be evaluated to make sure that that if there are insurance requirements, that they're covered, and we know the nature of the event. In the past, there have been a couple of petting zoos and that kind of thing that have been requested. And they kind of didn't happen because of the insurance requirement, but at the same time, you don't want somebody getting bitten or something like that. And so that is one occasion. So
What is the guest cutoff list, like how many people before you have to request this?
good question. That's kind of what we're talking about. Well, we're saying you need to do it, even if it's like a family. We have one family gathering that has like 3 tables with 12 people in front in their yard. And what we're really looking at it is that this isn't saying, no, you can't do it. It's saying, as a good neighbor, we want to make sure that those people that would be affected have notification of it. So that if it's going to be 30 people that they don't want to be around, that they can, it's going to be from 2 to 5 on Saturday, that they can choose to be away or do other things. And so it doesn't come as a surprise, and I get a call going, what the heck is going on? We didn't know this was going to happen. And a courtesy notification is really what the intention behind this is. Okay.
So, Jake, so we're gonna be making up this form.
We have the form. The form was put together for the community park, which is the common area. And so what we're doing is looking at it and going, how does this apply to the entire community, not just the community park?
How long has the form existed?
3 years. Rosa made the park. Rosa Bravo made it.
Okay.
That's because that's state land, correct?
It's state land.
And this is for common area.
So we're changing the use of the form.
We're expanding it so it's a notification and an opportunity that if there is an insurance concern, that then that comes across, whether that is somebody's personal insurance with a rider that covers it, or whether it is a special day insurance that we get from the site authorities insurance company. It's about $80 for use of the park for a bounce house. So there
Is there a cost for that too? Is there a cost associated for using the camera? So
at the present time there isn't.
And second question is there any noise regulation requirement?
Well, let's
We're gonna do that later.
so that good question. Let them bring it
It's
up.
on the agenda under new topics.
Okay.
So let's have the conversation when we get to it on the agenda.
Is it going to be?
No, let's move on. Let's move on.
And make the motion table this. My
Okay.
question is, anything regarding the camera use?
Okay.
All right,
Simple.
are you finished, Jake?
I have some questions.
Will it be used, will it be tagged onto the rules and regulations? That's all.
What's next?
We're
All
done.
right, are we,
I have a couple questions. Should be real quick. Financial, Jake. While back, you had indicated we were going to do some wrought iron repair. At the same time, they were going to repair some of the work around the tot lot after the tot lot opened and so forth.
It's the
So,
playground.
yeah, the playground, excuse me. So is that additional wrought iron work going to be done?
The painting of it is going to be, and repairs are being made as in preparation for the painting.
But beyond the playground? Because there's a series of wrought iron repair.
That's
not going to be done?
That is not part of the painting.
All right.
Yes, your little mule is not part of it. Yes.
Well, there's more than that. But
Okay, we can talk about it.
And then I saw in the financial report, we had several expenditures related to slab leaks. Was that just for one residence or more than one? Do you recall?
The slab leaks, what happens with the slab leaks is that those expenditures go, there were a couple of them.
So more than one home?
Correct.
Two,
That's
three?
it.
I'm
aware of
trying to
one.
track how much slab leak issues.
Gentlemen, can you please address it to the whole public? You cannot be talking to each other.
Okay,
Well, it's here, they're listening.
okay, I'll speak louder. So I just want to know,
Okay,
the operating report shows a series of slab leak expenditures, but it didn't provide the address. And I just wanted to know how many homes are involved to get an understanding of how extensive the issue is, because we've
Right.
Have
At
more
the present
projects
time,
in
at the present time, there are no active ones. And when that comes up is because it is being a reimbursement from,
Right.
being paid from the reserves.
But it's at least 2 homes.
At least 2.
Okay. And okay. And finally, our year-to-date budget, we're doing well, so to speak, in terms of our expenditures to budget.
Mhm.
But in our maintenance expense category, you have notation that we have a series of expenditures that have not arrived yet. Is that true? And do you have a sense for what hasn't come in? That
I think where we are on this is that this year, many of the expenses that in the past had been not covered by the townhouse reserves were part of the handyman, were part of the work. And so here, let me see.
Okay.
Do you have it there?
Yeah, so I just want to know, are we in jeopardy of exceeding our budget this year? Right now, we're in very good shape. But you've made a notation that there's outstanding stuff that we haven't received yet. And I just want to know what that meant.
I'm not sure exactly what you're.
We're right
Off
here.
the top of my head. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take it offline. That's right.
Yeah, I can.
Thank you.
I
Was
do need
hoping
to look
maybe,
at it. Yeah.
Quick answer. Okay, that's
Now
it.
we're going to turn to committee reports. Malia's not here to do social, and I have a conversation with her in advance, so I don't have a report. So let's turn to landscape.
May I
Well,
make-
I just want to say, so on this, Malia, Maisha did the newsletter, so we are having a game night at my house on May 21st, Saturday night. So if you, the email address, I think the contact info is in the newsletter. So email me. I think we'll have a great time. We'll have a hot letter. We'll have a great time. That's my social report.
Thank
Caroline?
you. So now landscape.
I didn't know anything.
Let me ask you a
Let's take-
question. Can you send me that information and I'll put it into e-blast for me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
It's in the letter, but I. can
Yeah,
send
that's
it.
fine. Yeah, just what you would like us to send out to the e-blast in May and we'll do it.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll do that.
The other thing I believe there is a movie coming up at the end of the month. I know, Kevin, do you know anything about that?
I think it's the 30th,
In her letter.
April 30th. We're planning a movie night.
So, okay, we'll send it out. I
I think she emailed Malia the information.
Right,
I
we'll
thought
send
I
it.
thought it made it over to Sandy once Malia said that she wasn't going to be here, but it wasn't emailed to me.
Got it. Okay.
But
Just a heads up.
movie night on the
So
30th.
That's coming up.
Question. These are the summer movie nights.
Say that again?
Summer park movie nights.
No,
The
this
movie nights.
It's in the same place as it's been.
same place, yeah.
Yeah, as far as I know.
I just want to make sure the board knows that you need a copyright approvals on this
Yeah,
and get the licenses for.
they're working on that.
Okay.
Done. Yes,
I have a question for the landscaping committee, so probably for me to ask now.
are we done social?
Are we done with social?
I just want to make one other comment. My wife's been spearheading the social committee since the existence, and we're currently in escrow to sell our house here in the neighborhood and move to a new house. So they are going to be in need of new people to continue the spirit of the social committee and to continue to do the social events and make that happen. So we are in need of more community members to step up and volunteer their time if the community wants to continue to enjoy social events.
Yes. I think that's very important.
That's it.
Landscape.
I don't have anything for landscape except I do want to say that someone made a huge mess up by the garden with eggs, trash. It must have been an Easter celebration, but I thought it was very disrespectful to the community. It was really a mess. I have pictures. I don't know. I wasn't here. I don't know who did it, but there were just shells and eggs.
Yeah,
Egg cartons laying there. So whoever's out there watching this, if you were part of that, I think that you could have a little more respect for your community. And the park is for everyone, but now we all get to reminisce about your party every time we walk up there.
So it was an organized event? Is that
I don't
what
know.
it was like?
I don't know.
What?
It was years to have that.
I have no idea. It was just, all I saw was the trash because I was at another event.
But they were confetti filled eggs, but real eggs. So.
Cascarones.
confetti and eggs and egg cartons.
Yeah, cascarones. It's an emptied egg filled with confetti and
Yeah, I assuming I was not here either, but I did see it the day after, it was a lot.
Yeah,
I picked up a little bit.
very
I did
disrespectful.
see a group in that corner of the park on Easter Sunday. But I walked past it and did not see the end of folks leaving and not cleaning up after themselves.
Well, yeah, I looked at the egg cartons.
Okay, do we,
We have a garden report.
I have a question. Landscaping. May I ask a question regarding the landscaping?
Yeah, sure.
I can ask it later.
may ask the,
Yeah, your choice.
Okay. I was looking at some old minutes. You can put out that when you put in a work order, include your contact information. So the landscape crew foreman can contact the owner and agree what can and will be done to rectify the landscape conditions at your home. Is that happening? The contact information, so the landscapers can contact the individual owner.
It didn't happen for me about the irrigation, but I don't know if they need to talk to me about the irrigation.
So it's
But
not happening. Yeah, this is from the UG camp, put this out and submitted, so I dug up.
no one
Okay.
contacted me. Is that supposed to be happening, Jay?
Well, what we've been doing is that when there is a work or a work request, we make a work order. And then I let you know kind of that a work order's been made, and this is the work order. And depending on what it is, if, like, for instance, if it's the windows, like we have windows replacement or balancers, that kind of thing, that generally what we do is we let them know and ask the owner, what number do you want the contractor or vendor to call to make the appointment? And so that's how it's communicated. It really is whether there is what needs to be done. Because most times at the point that we put in the work order, we have a pretty good idea what needs to be done. With the landscaping, it depends on what it is. If it is something like, plantings and that kind of thing, we figure a time that we meet, and then we take it from there.
right, so I do know that at least a couple of my neighbors who put in work orders for landscaping had landscaping contractors contact them and meet them to look at the plant that, for example, one of them had a dead plant that needed to be removed. And they actually had a date, met, and moved forward. So I suspect that it is inconsistent, and it depends on the nature of the issue, whether a contact is deemed necessary.
So if I could share an anecdotal incident as well, it's not happening. It was stated that the contact information is given to the contractor and they're supposed to call. Again, from my side, it is not happening. It happened for your neighbors. It doesn't happen over our side. Even though UG Camp said it happens.
I wonder if it's possible, because, when I'm communicating things, is it possible when you submit a work order to copy the homeowner on it, or is that just not a good idea?
What we've been doing is that requesting that owners send their work order request in an email form.
Uh-huh.
Then when we get it, and usually what we do is at the point that we put a work order in, that then we reply with the work order number. And so it's like that if any future communications, that then somebody like yourself can say, okay, what's going on with this? Work order 67495. And then we can pull it up, and we can see where it is.
Oh, but I have to communicate with you. There's no, like I'm not copied on your email with Brighton. When Brighton says I checked it, you get
At the
the
present
email,
time.
I don't. That's what I'm saying. It might be easier to just copy me and then you don't have to follow up with me.
We've considered that, and where it is right now is that the number of communications that go back and forth with Brightview. It's like if it would be closed or if we have questions.
Okay.
That's it. It's kind of a judgment of do you want to get 6 emails about this work order?
Yeah.
Noted.
Well, see,
It's a question of, status update. That's what we ask.
on the other hand, I've placed a few work orders and they're straightforward and I don't care. It gets done. It's simple. Clean the leaves. And so I don't want to, there's no need to call me. So I think that policy should somehow say as required, because some of the work orders, and I see them every month, are just real straightforward.
Can we move on?
This is coming up where work orders were told were complete a year ago and nothing was done. So I think we need some contact, right? Telling you can't one thing, they go, it's done, and nothing's done. And that's our money paying these folks. Put it in plans, it's not being done.
Yeah.
So maybe the
Agree.
landscape committee can assist Jake in formulating some issue where the right group and the tenant speak to each other.
I think closure is a
So,
good
so
term.
we've heard your suggestion and
Thank you.
we need to move on to the next item. Garden,
Thank you. Okay, so.
Microphone.
So in the last month, we have added 2 new gardeners to our garden. Sorry about that, which we are very excited about. We are anticipating adding another this month. When we started this committee, and in the last year, right, it's been 2 years now, I think, almost 2 years, we have had about 40 plus people on the wait list. That is now down to 16 and continues to go down, meaning that we have, for a total of 54 gardeners, have had, out of that 54 gardeners who have requested a chance to garden, we have been able to accommodate over 70% of them, which is just a really good number. People have been very thoughtful about whether they want to take a plot and put that work, put that expense in, put the time in, et cetera. So we managed to dwindle that down to 16, and I think next month it'll be 15. So that's good news. We were given a donation of soil for the garden due to I know Eric made it very rosy. There was what is that called? Reclaimed water situation with the garden, and the front plots needed to have some soil refreshment done along with a few back plots. So we have done that, and we have safely stored the mulch, and we'll be offering up the soil and the vegetable mix to the remaining soil and vegetable mix to the community for their home gardens. But we need to make sure the mulch is stored because we can't be using that at home. It's a homes, because it's wood. And that is where we're at.
thank you very much. Finance and budget. I said earlier that I wanted to take the opportunity to begin a conversation with everyone about how budget is created, what its timeline looks like, and how it's formed. And so what you know now from Jake's report is that a final budget, which is due from the UG-CAM office to the site authority by March 31 of every year, has been submitted. It's now in the site authority's hands. The decisions that are open are theirs to make. And we literally do not have any further influence in the process. We only await the final decision that we will receive after the May site authority board meeting. But that doesn't mean we can't learn more about how we get to this process and what the numbers look like. If anybody has gone out and looked at the monthly financial reports that are now available to you or posted online on the web and are available, they're available for viewing in person in Jake's office. You'll notice that these are enormous spreadsheets, kind of like they're this wide. And there are 59 gajillion columns. And so my goal today is to explain what the 59 gajillion columns actually mean. And they are the mechanisms by which the individual expense items get divided up by who pays which bills. So on the back of your agenda, it's a handy little pie chart. You have a copy of the agenda, Patrick? All right, so on the back of this agenda is a handy little pie chart. And I don't know whether the numbers actually got added to the pie chart, but you'll see the biggest blue segment, which is about 49%, represents 328 apartment doors. The next blue segment as we go around the circle is 8%, I think, and it's 58 apartment doors, and those are in town center. And the small segment that's in blue, which is 2%, is 14 retail doors in town center. So those 400 doors represent the doors that are owned by Kennedy Wilson. Then you have a dark green amount, and that are the 200 doors that are individually owned by townhome owners. And the next lighter green are the 72 doors that are owned by single-family homeowners. So if you go to the reports that are available to you online, you follow across and you look at, on the budget that's out there for this year, you look at what is budgeted for a particular item, you will know what your category of ownership is actually paying for an individual item. And you figure that out by knowing that if it's a townhome category, for example, we have some handyman repair issues that are only townhome expenses. And you'll notice that there isn't anything in any other column. There's only something in the townhome column, and you know that that expense line item is divided by 200 divided by 12, and that's what that expense is costing you every month. So it's knowing what the number of doors are, because we allocate expenses by doors. We allocate trash expenses by doors. We allocate water expenses by doors. We allocate some common area general insurance issues by doors. More specific insurance issues are some of our biggest bills are townhome specific insurance bills. And we divide those by 200 by 12 to get the monthly cost of that insurance. So that's step one for how the budget is built. And I think it's a very important beginning concept to understand. None of this is magic. There are basic numbers and facts behind it. And the actual expenses themselves come from last year's actuals, the estimates that are obtained for the current cost of an item, which has been pretty important this year with inflation being what it is, and our historical projections about what kind of price increases we're likely to see in any given year. For example, our trash provider sometimes hits us with 2 price increases in a year. And we need to know that historical information and know that that's the way we need to budget. So That's step one, to be continued. And if any of this makes sense to people and you find it valuable, John has kindly agreed to sit down with me and do a video that we will record that takes all the things, because next month I'll be back with the next piece of data on how we do this. And once we get some agreement that this makes sense and is valuable to you, John and I are going to sit down and record it, put it out on the web for posterity so that people know how the budget is created. Yes, sir.
Two questions. One, will you be providing us the same kind of distribution of costs from the CAM fee section?
Okay, so CAM fees
Mhm.
are the result of,
I understand, but how will
Okay.
you provide us the
okay, so your CAM fees are determined by whether it's a common area expense, a townhome expense,
I
or a
understand.
single family
I
expense.
understand. I'm asking a simple question.
What's your
Well,
question?
then I'm missing your question, so try
will
me
you be
again.
providing us a pie chart with clear distribution of those numbers as you were
The dollar.
provided us last year or 2 years back?
The dollar amount?
In dollar amounts.
Possibly.
The dollar amount?
Yeah, the dollar amounts.
The dollar amounts for the current year's budget are easily calculated by simply
So you're not going to
going
provide.
to the current year's budget.
They're on.
They're actually kind of out there.
Okay,
It's public.
okay.
It's accessible to you. It's on the web. If you would like it in a pie chart, I suspect yes, it's there. Now, next year's budget, I do not have access to until after that information is released to us by the site authority, and I wouldn't expect that before mid-May.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one comment about your doors count. Do the commercial doors, are they billed the same rate as a residential door as a town?
It depends on the item. So if it's a common area item, for example, trash collection is a common area item, that door is being billed as a common area door.
For trash collection, for the restaurant?
Actually, that isn't true.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's-
Jake is telling me
Yeah.
that one is in its own category.
Yeah, with the trash, they have their individual accounts. And so there are those that are those that are residential, and then there are those that are restaurant. And so they have, like they have the grease pickup and all that kind of stuff. But so it's a different, it is their account goes in their column.
Okay. But as far as, okay, the electricity, well, they have their own.
No,
electric.
so each of these things, if the expense that relates to a particular category of door, that's why there are all these columns, because the expense is in the column for the door that it relates to.
That's okay. As long as it's there,
Yeah,
we don't have to-
they're all,
It's all there. If you go out and print out the current year budget and look at the distribution by doors, you will see for any expense in the budget, who's paying for what.
That's okay. You brought me this. This is a good number to start.
Okay, I have a question, and I don't know what I'm talking about, so. The town center apartments, those used to be student housing, correct? And now the school is still leasing some of those back.
it's still student housing.
But,
Okay,
but
and what happens is that because it's like an apartment, right? And so the Mission Hills and the owner pays us the CAM fees that
But
are.
there's no discount because it's the school or anything like that, that's my question.
No.
Okay, so.
it's a door is a door is a door. A door is a door is a door. And from our financial point of view, we won. A door is a door is a door, because that's to our benefit.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes.
This is my question regarding what Jake was talking about. the budget. So the budget is worked on, sent to through UECAM, SA, they approve it, and then comes back to us. Is there any reason why, A, who's working on our budget with our money, which residents? And why is that information? There's a couple of HAC meetings ago, we asked, could you share the budget? And you didn't want to share. So who's working on our budget with our money? Why is it not shared with the residents?
Because your ground sublease does not give us the right to do that.
So if I get on the committee, I can work on it, see budget.
What does that even mean?
So if,
Share it.
no, we do not, until we have a final budget that is approved, we have a working document that's being worked, but there are no decisions. And once it reaches the decision-making level, there is no one from the community involved in the conversation.
So you're saying, Sandy, that it's in the ground sublease, something is there like that?
Yeah,
That we cannot share?
it is. You're getting to
Then you
what
get a
you're
section
getting,
of-
you're getting into things that I will
No.
cover later.
No, you said that, right? You said that it's in the ground sublease. My question is very simple. Which section of the ground sublease does it say?
Article 1, 4.3, if I recall.
1.4.3.
I did not bring.
No, the budget.
I did not bring my ground sublease with me, so do not hold me as an ignorant person if I quoted you the wrong section, because I'm not looking.
I understand. My question is very simple, right?
So
I'm trying to figure out-
I suggest you read your ground sublease
Yeah.
again, for the 59th time, I'm sure, but that you read it. Now, there are some things that are in buyer's disclosure and they're not in the ground sublease that impact how this process happens.
Okay.
So I suggest you look at buyer's disclosures also.
Okay.
But basically,
So you have signed a non-disclosure? with the
No.
site authority?
no,
No, okay.
every time you ask me one of these questions, I tell you, I work very hard to only work with publicly available data
Okay.
and to make my conclusions from publicly available data so that any of you can go out and check what I've done and see whether or not you agree with me or you don't. Because my interpretation may not be your interpretation. Now, we do have some data that we've gotten as public information request data that I have now seen and done some analysis on. But what we are talking about on the budget, I have not worked with anything that's not publicly available.
And publicly available means you can share that references to with us?
There aren't any references. Go
How is
look,
it
go look at the current data in the budget.
Okay.
Go look at the columns.
So that is the public information.
That is the public information.
It's on the website.
It's on the website.
I have one question, and I think, Patrick, your question is, it's Kevin and Sandy that are the community members that are working on. There's the one right
This year.
This year.
But you can work on it next year. Get up to it. So if you want to work.
No,
on it-
what I asked you to do was actually work that would feed into the work, the broader question that we're doing. We would like that answer.
So let me clear, that's the first thing I heard about the you can't share. So as a resident, you have a ground sublease, correct?
You have yours, I have mine. There is a reference document on the website that is the reference ground sublease that I use for everything I do that relates to the ground sublease. I don't use my own, I use the reference document. And the question I asked you was to please compare your ground sublease to that reference document and tell me what's different. Because if something is different than what the site authority asserts, that no ground subleases there have never been any changes to the ground sublease, is not true if yours is different from the
That
reference
was my question.
document.
My question was, you have special authority as a resident. So the rule that says I can't see the budget does not apply to you as residents.
No, that's not
And
true.
let me
So
just-
I'm just curious, what gives you the authority to work on the budget, and not share with, I get that.
So,
You're not understanding.
Let me make a comment.
I just-
As you remember, it's about 3-4 years ago, that there was no budget advisory group or
Right.
anything like that. And Stephanie Bracamontes was working with UGCAN, and we came up with the idea of she came up with it and she said, yes, I want the community to have input into this. And so what the site authority did was that they determined that it is in the best interest of the community that people who are voted on to the HAC as representatives, that from that pool of 5 people, 2 representatives from the HAC represent the community on the budget advisory group. And that is the representation. So that's the representation nature. And it's so that that is in the process of putting the budget together. Once the budget is put together and passed by the site authority, we put it on the website along with the reserve study, so everybody can see what is what. So that is something that the ground sublease does not say, yes, there's a bag. No, it does not. But the site authority, in the interest of including the community, at the point that they sold the apartments, they acknowledged the fact that they wanted the community to be part of it in a way that would be helpful. And because we have the election of 5 individuals is the only thing that the ground sublease offers, that from a representation standpoint, that Stephanie agreed that to have somebody that is elected by the community is really the only way you can justify them looking at the budget before it is completed.
I have my own question. So Stan, you said there are some decisions that are open, so I'm assuming that means the site authorities can fill in that number? Or what does that mean? And if the site authority can make a decision, can we advocate to get that decision in our favor? Well, what's the decision that's open?
I'm not at liberty. to
Are you
say what
just
this-
implying that they don't have to rubber stamp what we recommend?
The
Is
site.
that what you're just trying to, I mean,
So-
obviously they
so
never
what-
have to take our
So what
recommendation.
I'm saying is
No,
there is a draft budget that has basically the bag's recommendation to the site authority. That is the draft budget that's been submitted.
Right.
There are a couple of open questions that we fought pretty vociferously about in the bag.
Okay, that's
So
my
they can
question.
change our recommendation. is
So
what
they
you're
can
saying.
change
Of
our
course, of course, they always
recommendations.
can.
And
Wouldn't that be something that the community could advocate to the site authority? Because
I-
there are representatives too.
I think that they have,
Sure, I don't think there's any real thought that they're
What is the?
going to change our recommendations.
I,
You brought it up.
what I would
so
offer.
I certainly hope they,
Hmm?
well, I can't say that.
What I would offer is that as per the pie chart, you can see that the apartments have a certain say in it. And I think what we're talking about is that there are guidelines for the ground sublease. For instance, it says that you can charge up to 25% of the year before you can add on. Okay. So it's like, I think the conversation comes is what is reasonable. And that is a judgment that in consultation with the site authority, it may be determined.
You mean what's a reasonable increase?
And a reasonable increase, and at the same time, I think one of the big conversations is the reserves for the townhomes, because they're low, and it's like, how do we address that?
Sure.
And I think,
Echo's guaranteed with the 300,000, that we wouldn't be seeing an increase of 3% for the next 5 years. Just gonna stir the pot.
yeah, stir away. And so what I'm offering is that if we would go by what the reserve study says for the townhomes, which you can look at it when we publish it, and you can see what they think it should be. And what that would mean is beyond the 25% of what is allowable. And then you go, what is the better solution? And so I think what we're talking about is related to that kind of thing.
Yeah, the
You know,
temple, yeah.
And so I think, Caroline, yes, the members of the BAG from the HAC have made it very clear about how they feel about the funding, and it isn't solved, but it's like, how do you go to the next year and be responsible and understand what the difficulties are? Yes, the townhouse reserves is something that, no, it didn't get solved this year, but it is also something that the increase that is there is not something that is so large that you would go, wait a minute, I can't live here anymore.
But let me ask you this, how are we planning on facing the challenges?
And that is for next year.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's for next year. I don't know how we're going to do that. If I knew that, we would have solved
One
it.
day at a time?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
would
John?
it would probably be hundreds of dollars that you have to increase the camp fees to bring it up properly, correct?
That's the debate.
Somewhere.
What do you want, yes, Patrick?
That was my question regarding the camp fees. You're going to increase of, I mean, just a little history, 2006, we're paying 179, now we're at 380, now you're looking at over 400? Is that what you're saying?
That is what was the conversation in the budget advisory group. That is what the conversation is.
So
But that, what I'm offering
we
here,
we cannot presuppose what the final decision is going to be. I think there are conversations that will continue that are on other subjects that may impact this conversation.
and so.
And I can't be more clear than what I've just said,
Yeah, Sandy.
but
let's
I
talk about
hold
that.
up hope that we will get to a better resolution than we have.
John wants to say something.
I was just gonna say, I hope that Kevin and Sandy would agree with this, that we really do want the input. I'm only staff for the secretary, let me make that clear. I am not a voting member of the board, so I present my recommendations, but I take that input, and that's the nature of representing the government, is I take the input from Sandy and Kevin, whoever the BAG committee is, because I want this to work out. And the problem of townhouse reserves is a common problem. It's really, if we don't put away enough money, we have a problem. But I balance that against the sincere desire to provide affordable housing to our community.
Yeah, it's a balancing act that's gonna have to be played for a number of years, really.
But do we have to fund every potential cost now? Can we do?
Well, that's the
Partial.
conversation. I mean,
It's
we're
not
gonna
a
be here until 10
conversation
o'clock.
for now.
I have a question. You know, with the, when we bought into this with the cap, we only get, CPI, but our HOA fees are going up, and we can't get market value on the new homes that are being built. You know, so if I live here, or like Kevin here with me, so we would, you know, if I'm paying $4 or $5 a month for an HOA, and then I move in 5 years, I can't get that money back because of the cap on the CPI. Why don't we just do an assessment? Because you know, windows break, you know, you have it in the windows or the heating units, but they always break at different times. So why don't we do an assessment?
Each time,
And, yeah, for each owner, and then add that into the cost base of the home.
for every fix,
So,
No, for big things like
the big.
the heating, the windows.
so the formula for the identifying the cost basis of your home is fixed. And
Right.
changing that formula, we approached the last time we discussed this problem, which was 2.5, 3 years ago now. And at that point in time, that idea was rejected by the site authority. Now,
That's ridiculous.
so I do not know that idea will be rejected by the site authority this time.
Well, you know what, I brought this up 4 years ago. We're pricing ourselves out for resale down the road. If the HOAs are 500, we're capped way below market value. Who's gonna wanna buy into this place then down the road, right? I mean, that's where I'm thinking, like, I'm thinking like, you're leaving, but I might not leave in 5 years. I'm probably paying $500 or $600 a month, and I'm not even at market value. It's
Yeah.
unappealing.
Well, there's a low barrier to entry, but there's a high cost to maintain.
So-
So, you can't keep it very high.
Whether they give us the
Sandy, we
ability
need to wrap
to
this up.
dispose of
Okay,
something,
sorry.
or they give us the ability to do an assessment on the other end, that we add it to the cost basis of our home, like whether we.
Budget's been raised.
So-
We've been talking about that quite a bit. So as Sandy said, a couple of years ago, there was serious discussion about this. It was rejected. We do have some new discussions, new site authority staff, and I mean, we had to deal with it, I think, rarely, kind of quickly. Let me just finish real quick. I do think, I'm not gonna be here, but it seems like hopefully there'll be some continued creative ideas for, solving the problem. The problem is mostly due to the reserves. It's not necessarily the operational.
That was the reserve study, it was 2 years ago, and I brought that up 2 years ago. Just add an assessment.
Sir,
This is super important for all of us. Time is not an issue right now. I thought in here, the HOA or the monthly camp fees were really, that was one appealing aspect. And now we're pushing 400, and I heard it as high as 500 eventually. It doesn't make sense. I have another home that was under an HOA, and that's to be repaired, and we just assessed 30 homeowners the same amount. And that's market value that got added back in my soul. Here, you can't do that.
Yeah, there is a limit, within the ground sublease on the maximum assessment.
If you look at what I paid 4 years ago to now, that's a lot more. And I don't see any stopping at this point, especially that study from 2 years ago, where everything is thrown in there. And then just with my luck, or any of us, we were paying these high HOA fees, and then we're gonna move. We maybe move. None of us are gonna be here forever, and then how do you recoup that?
Right.
Well, you don't, that's part of.
I would not have an issue if we were at market value.
Right.
Like the new homes, those things are gonna go for double what we have here.
Yeah, well, I think to your point, I think there's probably two different ways within that you can fix the problem. You can either do some current assessment and add it to the value now, or you can tack it on every time somebody turns over. Like right now, I'm selling my house.
I thought the same thing, Kevin. Why can't we have?
guys,
And
we
so-
cannot solve this problem tonight.
Yeah.
I invite us to a continuing conversation about it.
That's the whole reason we're having this happening now.
I'd suggest you wait until the budget is done and then we can look at real numbers and see where we're at.
I invite you to get.
Because these concepts are not new. We talked about this
Work
before.
on a budget.
There's three empty spots open,
I've
so
already
Get
done
out
it
here.
3 empty spots.
Come on and work on it because
Work
the
on the budget is different than
problem,
having the sign up for improving.
the townhome problem is long-standing. It's very important. It's not going to be solved. The issue is when you bought the townhome, there was no reserves because the site authority didn't put the reserves that they should have been putting in all those years. So
They also didn't disclose it to the
they
AE.
didn't disclose it. So every time you sell your home, you ought to be disclosing the reserves are not.
I think this is Patsy's.
It's a big deal and I don't know how to solve it.
So the issue that I am trying to pursue is the total cost of ownership in the Glen. And total cost of ownership is total cost of ownership. Everything it costs you to live here, once you buy in at your subsidized purchase price, that total cost of ownership is at an unacceptable level. And I think we've got some agreement that that's true, but how we fix it is an ongoing conversation. And it needs to be a broader conversation. The recommendation is to make an interim choice this year and have another conversation over the course of next year. We had to do this the last time we ran up against this steep a hill, and the hill is as steep as it was last time or steeper. So that conversation over the next year is a very important one to have. I invite you all to the conversation, but let's do it from the facts. And those facts, go home, look at what it costs you to operate your townhome if you're a townhome owner. Share that information. I started out trying to do a survey to try to put this together, decided it could not happen in the time frame we had. But next year, I'd really like to see what cost of ownership is. And if it is as high as I think it is, by the time you add your taxes and your CAM fees and your insurance costs and the other things that you are responsible for, we would like to understand that collectively, because that's a conversation that I think has impact. Now, the university looks at our subsidized price as an important recruiting tool. My point is that it is not fair to recruit someone to the neighborhood on the low cost of ownership and then hit them over the head, I mean, with the low cost of purchase, and then hit them over the head with the cost of ownership.
But that's part of finding out before you buy, and nobody's being forced to live here. You can sell
So
your
we asked
town.
about the reserves when we moved in.
And we were not told the
That's
truth.
that's
You were
a
not told the
problem
truth.
between you and the site
We
authority.
were not told and not disclosed. That is the problem.
Well,
That's,
there-
that's something the town homeowners have to.
It is all, it's all a part of the conversation,
Oh.
I've been here for.
But it is-
11 years now. So I-
but it is, look, we cannot resolve it tonight. I would like to finish this meeting and invite you all to next year's long-term conversation on this and figure out how we put the data together to make the case we need to make. The budget for this year will go to the site authority board for their beginning of May meeting. The May meeting is May 9th. The information will wrap 2 to 3 weeks before that, but we will not have access to it until it is approved.
So maybe June?
I'm hoping late May.
Usually what happens is it shortly at the end of May, it usually runs right about the time of the elections. You know, it's like we end up stuffing a lot of envelopes because we are directed to send out a hard copy to everyone about the CAM fee amounts. And at that point is when we communicate about.
What's next?
So, community advisory group, things that happened in the last meeting, and I'm looking for my notes, which apparently didn't make it here. No, that piece of paper didn't make it. So Jake, when I misspeak, please help. One of the things that got announced, which I think is good news for all of us in the community, Ben Gordon announced at the last CAG meeting that they have found a tenant for the market in Town Center. And it's a person with experience in the area and currently runs similar stores in Ojai.
Will be a market.
Yes.
I believe it will be a market. Yeah, so I think we can all cheer that they finally found someone who's willing to take it on and with potentially the expertise to be successful. That's an exciting piece. Now, that was the only thing I remember from what I wrote down,
Anybody gonna
Jake.
make pizza?
Pizza place.
It's not, is it open?
Yeah, it's open.
Oh, I haven't
it's
seen it open. During the business hours? Pizza? Closes at 8. Oh,
Yeah, so
It's all right.
we're almost out of time for
almost out of
tonight.
time.
So
Just gonna order for a bite.
Just
We got 5
two
minutes.
things I'd like to ask be added to the CAG agenda.
okay, so now items to be added to the CAG agenda. I have the new right-hand turn lane at Camarillo Lewis. I have, and I wrote permit request follow-up for okay, so I think we need to take to the CAG the fact that we have at least 4 families who are waiting for the building permit people on campus to issue permits so that they can do remodeling work. And so I think that's an issue.
There's a delay.
There's a delay.
Okay. Well, that's what's happening.
Out in the real world, there's a 6 to 9 months or longer delay. So actually things kind of move along. I'm just saying the whole world is.
Organization move faster.
It would,
I can be a resource for seeing that.
thank you, we appreciate that. Anything else? Are those your 2 issues?
2 things. One's an old issue and one's kind of a new issue.
Okay,
This has come up before. I'd like to ask again on the CAG if we put into the phase 2 landscaping project, the installation of 2 bollards, lighting bollards at each end of the pedestrian bridge, the other pedestrian bridge. It's been kicked around, and it's like, let's just put it as part of phase 2 and put those suckers in.
okay.
It's, okay, so it's an old issue. And the second is, this is new.
Okay. So I don't really think that's a CAG issue, but
Well,
I'll.
what is it?
I think it is because the apartments have input into it, but they need to be notified.
Oh, all right, okay, okay.
And the other is, this came up recently, there's an interest in, I can't say how extensive, in having a pickleball capability. Some residents have been putting up a temporary pickleball set on the basketball court. So I don't know if it's in level 3 reserve study to repaint the basketball court this year. It's in pretty bad shape. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And the request is to, at the same time we repaint the basketball court, is to paint pickleball court lines on the basketball court. It's fairly common practice. So that's the request.
Okay,
So, and I would think Kennedy Wilson, the new property development guys on the 32 acres would be interested because they're going to be introducing a large number of seniors into the community, and this tends to be a more senior-oriented sport.
Was there a park? I'm sorry.
To your first point with the right hand turn lane, can you bring that up? Can you also try and advocate for a protected right turn light to be added?
What?
yes, yes.
So in on Lewis, if they're turning left, you'd have a protected right turn. So you turn.
From Camarillo.
Okay, gotcha. So no U-turn.
Put
Yeah.
a green right arrow.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
the answer is yes,
That will also help your egress.
That was part of the
yes,
request.
yes.
That's it.
Anything
Nope,
else?
done.
Are we done? Okay.
Do we have a park expansion committee? Did we start that?
It went to the CAG last month and I got no pushback, but nor did I get approval.
Okay.
So it's on my list for Malia to see how we proceed at this point. Because I think there's some interest in creating a park visioning committee, you know, somebody to go start to do the homework to figure out what kind of park resources are reasonable for a community of 4,000 people. So it's, all right. Do we wish to defer? We wish to defer the last 2 items that are under additional discussions because we are at 8 o'clock.
What are they?
They are event form for common area use and public comment protocol.
Well, the one's for executive session, so let's just take it there.
It's no,
Event form. The event form?
no.
What?
All right.
I thought that's what we're going to be talking about.
Okay. All right. I entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I'll make a motion.
To
Adjourn.
let's do it. Second, do we have a second? Okay.
So you're 100 in favor? All right. Okay.
Yeah. go for that.
So thank you all for your patience and for your commitment to join and see us. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.